Okay, welcome everyone to the Roots of Health Masterclass. My name is Brian Mariani, and I am very, very grateful to be hosting tonight. And to start off, I really want to welcome everyone, whether you're here live or you are viewing the recording at a later date. I want to express my deep gratitude that you are taking time out of your life to share in this experience. And I want to declare 3 commitments to all of you, whether you're live or tuning in at a later date. The first one is that we really commit to you that tonight is an experience that does shift you into a better state. We hope that what you learned tonight, we hope that this experience is one that moves you into a better state, into a better place. Number 2, we commit that this adds value to your life, real tangible value. We commit that you learned something of value today that you can take on in your life, whether it's for yourself or whether it's something you share with a loved one or a friend. And number 3, we commit to be kind to you tonight, and we commit to be kind to you in any interaction that we have in the future. And in the spirit of kindness, I want to start out with gratitude. And I'm going to start with thanking Mark Porteous and David Ricklin. Without them, tonight would not be possible. And we're very, very grateful that they are a part of our team. And Mark and David, if you're out there, give a wave. Thank you so much for all your efforts. Again, tonight wouldn't be possible without you. I want to acknowledge Lee Erickson and his team for doing all of the work that none of us could do behind the scenes, getting all the technical parts moving so that we can be in service to you tonight and long into the future. I want to acknowledge Kelly Wagner from The Edge magazine for spreading this message far and wide. Thank you for being an advocate for the work we do. And there's so many people to thank. And I hope you know that you're in my heart. You're in all of our hearts. Thank you. And I want to give a special shout out to my brother, Evan, who is an integral part of this team. Yes, he is the youngest in our family, but we would all agree that he is the wisest. I want to send gratitude to my mom, Megan, who's here with us tonight. Give a wave, Mom. This really wouldn't be possible without my mom. She is the captain of the ship. She sets the sail, and we all know we're going in a good direction with her as the captain. And now, the reason why we're all here, I would love to introduce my dad, Russell Mariani. And I'm very grateful that when my dad was 18 years old, he received some news from his doctor. And his doctor told him that it was very likely that he had colon cancer. And when my dad heard that at 18 years old, it was as if he had just received a death sentence. And I'm very grateful to him that in that moment, he made a decision that he was going to find a different way. And he literally dedicated his life in that moment to figuring out how he could have a life. And we are all very, very lucky and blessed that he went on that adventure, because for the last 40 years, he has been in service to helping and healing and working with people around the world to help them with digestive issues, to help them with so many different, very difficult conditions, that he has a very innate and natural ability to understand and to teach and to ultimately provide sustainable health and optimal health for many thousands of people around the world. He has also published 2 books, Healing Digestive Illness in 2006 and Principle Eating, the No Diet Way to Complete Health in 2020. So without any further ado, Russell, Dad, The floor is yours, and thank you for this opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Really, really exceptional. I appreciate it very much. And hello, everybody. Welcome to everyone from all over the US and Canada and around the world. Delighted to have you here tonight. And as Brian suggested, we really want you to have tremendous value out of tonight's presentation. So just a couple of things as we get started. I do want to thank all the people that Brian's already thanked. Mark Porteous, David Ricklin, Lee Erickson, Megan, Brian, Evan. We have this wonderful team behind us that has been coming together for over a year. We've done several practices of this webinar over the course of the year, all leading up to tonight. So thank you all very much, everyone on the team. And thank you all, everyone, for coming. And thank you, Brian, for mentioning part of my story. I wanted to begin tonight by acknowledging myself, as Brian just did, because I'm actually celebrating the 50th anniversary of my healing journey, which literally started 50 years ago, possibly this week. It was late January, early February 1973 when I had the experience that Brian shared with you. After many months of terrible abdominal pain and cramping and symptoms, you know, diarrhea one day and constipation for a few days, and really just tremendous amount of discomfort and pain. I went to a gastroenterologist and was told after a colonoscopy that he thought I had colon cancer. And as you can imagine, that was pretty shocking news. And I asked the doctor, he thought that this condition had anything to do with my diet, because I had radically changed my diet about 1 year prior to this diagnosis. And in that moment, it was the only thing I could think of that made any sense. And his answer changed my life, because he said, no, there's no condition. And I said, well, how did this happen? How did this happen to me? And he said, we don't know. Stress. And he left it at that and left the room. So I knew in that meeting, two things were true for me. The first one, I didn't want to work with this doctor. He had basically told me in that meeting that I'd probably need to be on medication every day for the rest of my life and probably need surgery before I was 25 years old. I was 18 that day to remove some or part or all of my colon. So this was like totally crazy to me. It made no sense to me. So I knew I wasn't going to work with that doctor. I knew I wasn't going to go down that path of modern medicine, partly because of the way he treated me. He didn't answer my question. And so the second realization was, I'm on my own. I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. Now, I was very lucky in that within the first few months of looking for answers and solutions to my condition, I met some people who had been studying and learning and practicing something called macrobiotics. And just by changing my diet to this more traditional whole foods diet, I felt an immediate improvement within days, certainly within weeks. And so that really was the beginning of my healing journey. And I went back to school to learn about the connections between nutrition and health, between diet and disease. And I went through what I look back upon now as a 7-year apprenticeship from 1973 until 1980, until I felt confident that I had learned the fundamentals enough. I had practiced them enough in my own life, in my own health, in my own diet, in my own lifestyle. And I had talked to enough people who had healed themselves through a change in nutrition. So I started my private practice in 1980, and I've been working with people ever since. And as Brian said, even though I specialize in digestive wellness, and that covers the full spectrum of every imaginable digestive system disorder, I have always, from the beginning of my career, worked with people with every other negative health condition, from the most minor to the most serious. And that's because the root causes, that's because what's responsible for causing all health problems, all negative health problems, can be undone in the very same way. And that's what I'm going to be going over tonight. I wanted to share a story about my father, and then I'm going to introduce the concept of functional medicine and functional nutrition, and then I'm going to ask Becky and Ruben to share their testimonial, and then later in the lecture webinar, I'm going to ask Kathy Adams to share her story, and then after that, I'm going to ask Mark Porteous to share his testimonial. Because it's one thing to say all these things, it's one thing to teach principles and teach practices and teach things that I've learned. And of course, I get to benefit from working with people one-on-one. I see their transformation, I hear their stories, but it's been difficult for me to create a webinar where we can bring in people and share their testimonials. So I'm very excited about that. So back in October of 2022, just a few months ago, I got a phone call one day from my brother, Bill, who lives in New Jersey, and he was calling from the hospital because that morning my father woke up and was unable to urinate. He could not pee. And he was in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. So Billy took him to the hospital, and they did all kinds of tests. And so he was calling me to let me know what was going on, and to let me know that the doctors had basically diagnosed my father with a very enlarged prostate. Now, my father turned 99 years old in September, and to celebrate his birthday, he played golf the next day. He played 9 holes of golf. So my dad is very healthy. He has no chronic disease. He has no major illness. So this seemingly came out of the blue. The doctor took my brother aside and said, look, your dad is 99 years old. He has a very enlarged prostate. He probably has advanced prostate cancer, although they did no tests to verify that. And so there really isn't anything we can do for him. We're not going to treat this condition. So the best thing to do is to take him home, make him comfortable, and say your goodbyes. So when Billy told me this, I said, go back to the doctor, ask him to look at the x-ray he took, the abdominal x-ray, and answer one question. And that question is he constipated? And at first the doctor wouldn't answer, but then he finally came back to my brother and said, yes, his rectum and sigmoid colon is quite full of you know what. And I said, okay, Bill, take the catheter out. They obviously put a catheter in to relieve his bladder, but bring him home. And as long as everyone else in the family agrees, let me take it from here. I'll tell you exactly what to do, and then I'll drive. Megan and I were in Canada when this took place, so it took me a couple of days to get down to New Jersey. But basically, I want you all to know that I walked my dad at age 99 through the same process that I walk everybody through, no matter what their symptoms, no matter what their condition. And the reason for that is many people have the same condition that my father had. Now, it was difficult for my father to accept that he was constipated because he had a bowel movement every day. So it was hard to understand how so much fecal matter could get trapped in his system. And yet it happened. It's a very common condition. It's called diverticulosis. In fact, if we went out on the main street of any major city in this country and took 100 people off the street and gave them all abdominal x-rays, anybody over the age of 25 and anybody under the age of 100, 90 to 95% of those people would have a condition called diverticulosis, which means trapped fecal matter. And if you look at the anatomy of the body, male or female, you can see that if that part of the colon becomes engorged with fecal matter because of constipation, because of diverticulosis, it can swell to the point of pressing up against the prostate, which is the #1 cause of prostate enlargement. And if it really keeps getting bad, it can block the flow of urine, which is exactly what happened to my dad. So this condition of diverticulosis, this condition of constipation, can cause prostate problems in men and all the various gynecological problems in women. And yet the doctors never talk about it. They don't treat it. There is no treatment. There is no medicine that you can take to relieve that backup of fecal matter. So we brought my dad home, and within a day, he was peeing on his own without pain, without discomfort. And I walked him through the whole protocol, specialized herbs to do colon cleansing. We made sure he was properly hydrated. He was taking a superfood supplement. He was taking a redox signaling supplement. He was eating a simple whole foods diet. And he went from having 1 bowel movement a day in a 24-hour period to 8, 9, or 10 bowel movements a day for the next few weeks. I stayed with him. I slept in his bedroom in a bed next to him. And after about the 3rd or 4th night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, he looked at me and he said, "How is it possible that I could be so full of you know what? How can I keep having all these bowel movements? It's quite unbelievable." So within a week, of course, he was feeling so much better. He was getting his energy back. Within 2 weeks, he was exercising again, walking around the backyard, and feeling like himself. And literally by the end of a month, he was healthier and more energized and more flexible and more cognizant of everything happening than he had been last summer. And last summer, he was doing pretty well. So this was a big wake-up call for me. Now, again, you can say my dad was lucky because he had me in his life, and that is true. But the wake-up call for me is that this condition of diverticulosis is so prevalent in society, so prevalent throughout the population, and it never gets diagnosed, okay? So I have been teaching for years that people need to do an annual colon cleanse or every 18 months or every 24 months because I've known this for many, many, many years. But I haven't been as insistent. Now, of course, I do this with everyone I work with one-on-one. That's part of a core component of my program. But now I'm convinced more than ever that we really need to get the word out about this. And so that's another important reason why we're here, while you're here tonight, or the message that I want to communicate to you. And you're going to learn how you can do this on your own through my book. You're going to learn how you can do this on your own through a video series that we put together about a year ago, which has now been fully edited and all kinds of music and everything added to it. So it's now available for the first time. We'll be talking about that later tonight. And of course, if you want to, or if it seems more reasonable to you, you can work with me one-on-one. Okay, so those are the options. Brian will go over those at the end of our talk tonight. So okay, so here we go. What is functional medicine? What is functional nutrition? What are these core principles and core practices? And again, before I launch into this, I want to make sure everybody understands it doesn't matter what your condition is. It doesn't matter what your symptoms are. There is a solution, and that solution is understanding what I'm about to talk about, the 7 root cause areas of health, which happen to be the 7 root cause areas under all negative health conditions and symptoms. So we like to say, as to start this conversation about functional medicine, functional nutrition, physical health is the foundation upon which we build the rest of our lives. The quality of that foundation is determined more than any other factor by the quality of the life of our cells. When we talk about the foundation, we must talk about cells, bone cells, kidney cells, liver cells, blood cells. The cell is the basic building block of our body. It is the foundation. If our cells are healthy, then we are healthy. It's as simple as that. If our digestive system is healthy, we are healthy. If our immune system is healthy, we are healthy. But when we talk about organs and systems, we're talking about the basic building block, which is, again, the cell. So in the world of functional medicine and functional nutrition, we talk about principles and practices, principles and habits. The first principle of functional medicine is that the body is constantly healing itself. Every cell of your body is genetically programmed to heal itself, to repair damage, to detoxify itself, to detect damage as it's happening, so that disease can be prevented, so that illness can be prevented. Every cell of your body has that innate ability. So that's principle number 1. Principle number 2 is, when it comes to the decisions that we make, the choices we make about breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, supplements, medications, beverages, exercise, but basically all the physical inputs, everything that we eat, everything that we drink, everything that we take as supplements, nothing is neutral. Not one of those choices or decisions is neutral. Everything is helpful or harmful. Everything is what I have come to call over the years complementary or insulting. Every choice is either driving our physiology towards balance, towards homeostasis, towards repair, towards restoration, towards normal functioning. When everything is functioning normally, we're healthy. When everything is functioning normally, we don't have any negative symptoms whatsoever. So everything is complementary or insulting. Nothing is neutral. So it is the insulting habits that we are engaged in unknowingly. Now, sometimes we know that we're doing things that are insulting. We know we shouldn't drink so much coffee. We know we shouldn't stay up so late. We know we should drink more water. We know we should exercise. We know we should chew our food. So it really is this simple. And my job with every person that I work with is to do a thorough and comprehensive evaluation of their diet and lifestyle, but it's mostly their diet, and help them see the difference between the complementary habits that they're not doing consistently enough and the insulting habits that they are doing far too consistently, and to help them understand that that's more than any other factor, that's what caused their illness. That's what caused their negative condition. That's what's causing all their symptoms of pain, discomfort. And so as soon as you start changing, as soon as you start transforming the insulting habits into complementary habits, your body responds immediately. And your body says, thank you. and it immediately starts healing, immediately starts repairing, and immediately starts restoring function. And almost every single person that I've worked with in the last 43 years will tell me about that experience, will tell me that they knew 3 days in, 5 days in, 7 days in. Doesn't take months and months. As soon as your body recognizes that you are being proactive in your own self-healing process, which is what your body has wanted you to do for months or years or decades, it's going to let you know immediately, whether in a dream, through a dream, or through some realization. You know, again, 2 or 3 or 4 days in, people tell me, for 5 minutes, I felt completely fine, 100% normal. I couldn't believe it. And to me, that's your body's message to you that you're on track, that you're doing the right thing. And by the way, all negative symptoms, a headache, a bellyache, shoulder pain, acid reflux, chronic fatigue, insomnia, it doesn't matter. All negative symptoms are messages from your body to you to say, hey, wake up. Stop doing those insulting things. That's the only reason I'm giving you all this trouble. And so as soon as you stop doing the insulting habits and start practicing the complementary habits, your body starts this amazing healing process. The most important relationship in your life is the relationship between you and your body. Your body is genetically programmed to heal you and keep you well. The only problem is that none of us were given an owner's manual. You know, we all drive cars, and in the glove box of every car, there's an owner's manual that tells you what gas to use. It tells you how often to change the oil. It teaches you how to check the tire pressure. And if you do those simple maintenance things, the car will not break down. So it's the same thing with us. And so that is what my work is all about. The 2 books that I've written, the work that I do, this talk that I'm giving right now is in essence an owner's manual for you. It's an owner's manual how to work with the body so that it doesn't dysfunction, degenerate, and eventually turn into dis-ease, but the very opposite, so that we can restore normal functioning, restore our health, and live a long life like my dad. And hopefully we can all celebrate 100 years or more. Or as my friend Pat Hanbury says, I know she's out there somewhere, this whole process is a process of reverse aging. And that's exactly what it is. If you ever hear the term cellular regeneration, that's what it means. Every cell of your body has when you transform a cell, and then hundreds of cells, and then billions of cells, trillions of cells, when you stop the degenerative process of a cell and start a regenerative process, you set in motion a process of reverse aging. So that's what we're here to talk about. And so let's do this. So I'm going to talk about 7 root cause areas now. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one because all of this information is in my book. All of this information is in the video series. All of this information is in a PDF called The Roots of Health, which you should have already received by registering for this webinar. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I will give you the most important details in each of these 7 areas. So what are those 7 areas? Mindfulness, proper daily hydration, micronutrient deficiencies, macronutrient imbalances, intestinal dysbiosis, which is the whole area of digestive wellness, oxidative stress, and root cause area number 7 is redox signaling. So I'm going to talk about all those. But before I do, Becky and Ruben, get ready. So what I'd like to do is to bring my friends, Becky and Ruben Sotheby, who both went through my program last year. I think they started their program with me in March of 2022. So Brian, if you can unmute Becky and Ruben, and then make sure they're in the speaker mode. I'm going to let Becky and Ruben, Becky, I guess you can go first.
Yep, I'm just finding them. Hold on one second.
Okay.
All right.
So raise your hand.
There you are. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute. You'll see a little pop-up, and if you just unmute yourself, there we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Russell. And it's wonderful to be here with everyone. My husband, Ruben, and I, Ruben read Russell's book in 2006, and it helped him. So when I ran out of medical options, out of desperation, Ruben searched out Russell personally, looking for him. My primary doctors, the emergency room doctors, the specialists, none of them could give me a diagnosis. And I had 6 episodes of anaphylactic shock within 10 days. I actually gave Russell a few pictures. I emailed him if you want to put them up so people can understand what I'm talking about. What I mean by this is I was covered from head to toe with a red, itchy, swollen rash. My mouth, my eyelids, my tongue, my lungs started to swell, and it happened every time I would eat something, anything. This is what would happen to me. I was literally living on medication and in bed most of the time. My doctor told me that my only option was to stay on heavy steroids in order to live, in order to stay alive. At first, I was scared. Then I was frustrated. And finally, I was just really pissed off because these were the people who were supposed to know how to fix me, how to help me, what was wrong with me. But multiple times I'd go to my doctor and he would say to me, "What would you like to try next?" Well, before my first consultation with Russell, he had me do my homework. He gave me a long list of personal questions that revealed all of my habits and my health issues. Who does that? He obviously cares. And I had been seeing specialists for over 3 months since the beginning of this, and they all admitted to me that they could not help me. But Russell was able to give me a diagnosis in our first consultation, intestinal dysbiosis. And changing generational habits is not an easy thing to do. But I had a teammate. I had my wonderful husband, Ruben, and we had a coach. We had Russell. And so working together made it really easy to make these changes. On March 21st was my first consultation with Russell. And just 8 days later, I was able to consume food without having severe reactions. And then 15 days after my first consultation with Russell, I was off of all medications and all of my symptoms were gone. The feeling of mental clarity and overall wellness that I had never before experienced that feeling in life. I felt better than I'd ever felt. And now it's 10 months later. And as suggested, I have been journaling this whole process. So I'd like to conclude with a quote from my personal journal. "I am overjoyed that this has happened to me. It has opened the way to a more meaningful lifestyle, which, if I continue to apply, will improve the quality and quantity of my life and those I love. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. That's just so wonderful. It's, I hadn't seen those photographs. Of course, I remember seeing you way back last March, but until you sent those photos the other day, it was like, wow. And look at you now. You. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for your dedication and commitment. It's one thing to say you're going to follow through, but you and Ruben really did, and it's to your credit. And now you know why I do what I do. It's to see the transformation in people just like you and Ruben. So thank you, Becky. Ruben, please go ahead. Oh, sorry, Ruben. So Becky and Ruben live in Wilmington, Vermont. So go ahead.
Thank you, Russell. So I had seasonal allergies about 11 months out of the year since I was in middle school. In 2005, I had a strong onset of adult asthma. And I knew there was a connection between my digestion and my health issues. I just knew it. But I was told by several medical professionals that there was no connection. I even walked out on my primary care physician at one point. Trying to figure it out on my own, in 2007, I found the book Healing Digestive Illness from Russell. I read the book, implemented a few key elements. I was feeling much better. I moved on and gave the book to somebody else. Fast forward to 10 months ago, I was struggling again, allergies, sleep apnea, pretty severe. I had a sleep study done, muscle fatigue, and serious migraines. I was spending about 2 or 3 days a week in bed. I felt like I was losing ground, and I was doing everything to try to get better. My migraines were pretty bad. My muscles were starting to deteriorate to the point that I thought there was something else going on. I didn't verbalize it, but I thought I was in the beginnings of MS or something. I didn't know. I was physically falling apart. So my real motivation, though, was Becky wasn't doing so well. She just talked to you about that. She was struggling. She was losing weight. She couldn't eat. And bringing her to the ER again and again was tough. So I remembered Russell's book. Within a few hours, with some Googling and a short conversation with Russell, I was able to get a digital copy of his book. Becky moved forward in implementing the things that Russell had to share, but I held back. My experience was no one had the answer. And how could Russell have a fix for Becky and what I was going through at the moment? So I put a quote up from Russell's book on my refrigerator and meditated on it for a few days. It says, commitment. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So after a few days of looking at this in the mornings, I made the commitment. It wasn't easy. I realized that my food habits were actually food addictions, some of them. Pretty much everything I needed was in the book, but it was nice to have Russell as a guide, helping us both to learn how to swim upstream. Month after month, or after a month, there was a few moments of clarity and I started to get some strength. At this point, when I would go on walks, I would spontaneously start to run and I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Also, in the first month, right at about 30 days, I could eat things that I was previously highly allergic to. At this point, with Russell's help, I chose to change something pretty big. I had been a vegetarian my entire life since I was born. I had never consumed flesh. And when I ate something that had meat in it, I would get sick. Now I'm eating all types of meat. My body is thanking me with more physical strength and glycemic stability than I thought was even possible. Now, for almost a year, I feel like a different person after doing all the things that Russell's helped us to do. I'm continuing to make improvements month after month. That's it.
Thank you, Ruben. That's awesome. Really, thank you guys so much. Very inspiring, very inspiring. Okay, so it's a perfect segue from what Becky and Ruben has shared, because I'm sure many of you are thinking or asking yourself, so what did they do? You know, what are the components of this program that they keep referring to? So let me tell you. So I'm going to give you a brief description now of the 7 root cause areas. So the first thing I do with everyone is root cause area number 1, which is mindfulness. And it begins, as Becky said, with filling out this very large, long evaluation form. But the purpose of filling out that form is to begin to pay attention to all the things that you're doing with your diet and to start connecting the dots between what you're doing and your symptoms. So mindfulness simply means what most of us think of it means, which is being more aware, paying more attention to the cause and effect relationships in our own diet. It involves taking responsibility. It involves being proactive. And for my work, it means understanding the difference between the complementary habits and the insulting habits. Okay, so I tell everybody, look, before we get even any further into the conversation, everyone knows before reading the next book or going to the next lecture that some of the things that they're doing in their diet is insulting. Some of their habits are insulting. So start there, start and identify the most obvious things. For example, everyone knows that you're supposed to chew your food really well before you swallow. Nobody questions that. Everyone agrees with that. But until you actually have a meal with total mindfulness, meaning you're going to pay attention to how much you chew each mouthful before swallowing, you may never change the habit. And for many, many people, that one change is transformational. And other obvious things like eating late at night or eating things that are cold out of the refrigerator, eating too fast, overeating in general. So in my book, there's probably 25 to 30 pages laying out insulting habits and complementary habits, okay? So that's the whole idea of mindfulness. It's not just being generally aware, although that's very helpful, but it's learning the distinction in your own diet and in your own lifestyle about the differences between the complementary and the insulting habit. For example, one of the things the body needs most in order to heal any condition is proper rest. So you could be eating a perfect diet, taking great supplements, but if you're going to bed at midnight every night or 1 o'clock in the morning, then you're not getting enough sleep. Okay, so this is the area of mindfulness, common sense habits and behaviors, and most people can make a list of the things that they know they should be doing that would result in an improvement in their health, and the things that they either need to minimize or completely eliminate. Okay, so that's root cause area number 1. Root cause area number 2 is proper daily hydration. Earlier in the conversation, we talked about cells being the foundation of our health, the foundation of every structure, the foundation of every tissue, of every organ, of every system. But a lot of people, and again, this is one of those habits, nobody disagrees with hydration as being an essential health habit. And most people go out of their way to drink more water than they used to. But actually, there's a very specific protocol based on body weight and activity level, and to some degree, geography. If you're living in the tropics and it's very, very hot and humid, or if you're living out in the desert, then you need to drink a little bit more water. So no one disagrees with hydration being an essential health habit, but very few people know yet about what we call the water cure. So 55 to 75% of the physical structure of every cell in your body is water. But it's not H2O, it's water infused with micronutrients. It's water infused with hormones and enzymes. It's a substance, it's a liquid called cytosol. And it's inside the cell, and it's responsible for so much of the activity that results in our health or our illness. And so if your body actually needs 60 ounces of water a day as a bare minimum, and you're only drinking 50 ounces of water a day, which may be more than you ever drank before, but you're 10 ounces short every day, you could see little or no improvement at all. So that's how helpful, that's how transformational proper daily hydration is. And it's really that simple. It's next to mindfulness, it's the first thing I teach everyone to do. And it doesn't cost anything. And so even if you take nothing else from this webinar tonight, if you were to, and we, in the information that you should have received, and if you haven't, just put it in the chat, we will send you a copy of the water cure recipe, and you can start implementing that tomorrow. It will make a difference. It will make a difference. And for many people, it can make the biggest difference. Number one cause of constipation, what we call unintentional chronic dehydration. Number one cause of headaches, unintentional chronic dehydration. Number one cause of arthritis, unintentional chronic dehydration. And on and on and on. Okay. The third root cause area is micronutrient deficiencies. There are two types of nutrients. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, pigments like chlorophyll, antioxidants like beta carotene. We've all walked down the supplement aisle at Whole Foods Market or some other location, some other health food store. How can there be so many different types of supplements? How can there be so many different types of micronutrients? Okay, so every cell of your body has a shopping list. And on that shopping list are the micronutrients that that particular type of cell requires in order to function normally, along with being hydrated, along with oxygen, along with redox signaling that we'll talk about later. And so if you're not getting the proper balance of micronutrients, and scientists have discovered at least 80 different micronutrients, and most of them, you only need trace amounts measured in micrograms. Okay, so most people understand this. Most people understand that they need to make sure that they're getting all the micronutrients they need. Most people are already taking 3 or 4 different type of micronutrient supplements, but they're not getting the results that they need. So I have used for the last 35 years a single superfood supplement, a type of blue-green algae. And if you take enough of it, and it's usually somewhere between 1 to 3 grams of this blue-green algae a day, whatever the micronutrient deficiency is, will be restored back to normal levels within a 2 or 3 month period. So that's one way that we address and resolve micronutrient deficiencies. The other way is to make sure the digestive system is working properly, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Because because all of your whole foods have micronutrients in them. In fact, outside of protein, carbohydrate, and fat, which are macronutrients. The reason to eat any food is to get the micronutrients that are inside. And the only way you're going to get those micronutrients is to make sure that every aspect of your digestive system, the breaking down of food, the absorption and assimilation of nutrients through the intestinal villi, which is in the small intestine, that those micronutrients that enter the bloodstream, which goes to the liver, and from the liver onto all the back out into your bloodstream to all the organs and systems and cells of your body. Okay, so micronutrients, very important part of this whole process. Root cause area number 3. Root cause area number 4 is macronutrient imbalances, macronutrient deficiencies and imbalances. So this is the whole foods, the actual food on our plate or in our bowl. Grains, beans, vegetables, raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, fermented vegetables, seeds and nuts, and seed butter, like peanut butter, cashew butter, almond butter, fruit, fish, chicken, poultry, beef, wild game, all the cheese, I didn't mention cheese, all these different food groups can all be organic quality or not. So if they're organic quality, it's much better because then you don't have pesticides and herbicides, etc. And then we need to understand the difference between whole food, the way nature intended, versus processed food. So if I was to point out probably the biggest error in the modern diet, the biggest problem in the modern diet, it is the overconsumption of processed grain products, refined carbohydrates, foods or snacks made from flour, butter, sugar combinations. And of course, the really processed foods, it's not like organic flour, organic butter, and organic sugar. Processed foods have all kinds of additives and preservatives and coloring agents. And so way too many of the foods that we're eating are not even really foods. They're highly processed foods contributing toxins and chemicals that have no business being in our body, being in our physiology. And eventually they get into our cells and they disrupt the normal function of our cells. So in terms of food, what to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, it's a very simple dietary approach based on traditional foods, including all the basic food groups, okay? Moving away from processed food and eating a simple whole foods diet, nothing exotic, very simple. Everyone's able to do it. All right, so I'm gonna pause again, and we're going to hear another testimonial. And we're going to go to Kathy Adams in Woodland, California. So Kathy, if you can raise your hand so Brian can find you. And then when he finds you, we will have you share your testimonial.
Hi, Kathy. Did you see that I asked you to unmute? Awesome. There you go.
I am now unmute.
All right. There she is. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Never thought I would be talking about my intestinal system on live TV here, but here goes. So I met Russell in June of last year, June 2022. And how I met him was through my dear college friend, Allison, who's out there somewhere tonight too, who, well, just a couple of years ago when we started college, she has talked about blue-green algae and redox molecules forever. And I have rolled my eyes and said, yeah, another supplement thing, yeah. I appear before you a humbled human at this point, let me say. So I was going along. I had completely no idea that you could be constipated and still, as Russell said earlier, having a bowel movement every day. But in June, I had an acute abdominal pain and vomiting episode, which led me to the ER. I had never vomited as an adult. So this was quite a scary, horrible experience. And I thought something was pretty wrong. So, long story short, they wanted me to have a nuclear scan and endoscopy of my stomach and all of the scary things. And I did not want to go down that rabbit hole. So I called up Allison and said, this Russell guy you talk about, I think it's time maybe I should talk to him. So I did, extremely skeptical, but like Ruben said, I just had to commit, I just had to jump off the diving board and do the whole deal. And I must say, for me, I needed the one-on-one contact. I needed to, be helped along the way, or I never would have continued, because all supplements, all drinking of weird things is scary for me. I was scared because I'd been vomiting and skeptical, but I made the commitment, and thank God I did. The first thing for me was the hydration, and people in my life began to notice I looked less pinched. My dentist noticed in my gums. I've had a body worker and energy worker person for like 25 years. And she said, wow, what'd you do? Your pulses are completely different. And so that gave me a little encouragement to keep going, as did Russell. I had a bunch of detox episodes, which sounds terrible, but was really pretty wonderful. Because I could tell I was getting stuff out of my body that needed to not be there. So now I think I have the joy of improved bowel function, that's for sure. And it's unbelievable what can be retained in there, truly. And I feel an unexpected result is that my nervous system seems to have settled down. I'm less reactive, feel more grounded. And I had lost a lot of weight unintentionally. And so the doctor wanted to start searching around for cancer, because that's what they do when you have unintended weight loss. That was also scary, but I didn't really notice how much I wasn't eating dinner, because I had some aversion and sort of anorexic thing to dinner. I was losing weight, and that has all disappeared. I'm now eating dinner. I've been able to gain some weight. I'm less nervy. I'm drinking algae. I'm drinking redox molecules. I'm drinking water. I am humble. And I plan on keeping these complementary habits going, because who would want to go back to being pinched and dehydrated and constipated and sort of nervy? I had blamed a lot of this on fatigue. I do suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome. And so it's coming along a little bit. Hopefully that will continue to improve. But I wish everybody here good luck with their healing, whichever way you go with all this. But like I said, for me, now I can continue with Russell for the rest of my life. Not daily, Russell, don't get nervous. But if something happens, I can call him up and say, hey, what do you think? And that is worth its weight in gold to me. The way I'm wired, that's really important. So yeah, I could talk a long time, but I will stop now.
Thank you, Kathy. That's wonderful. It's so great to see you. Thanks for sharing your experience. It took a lot of courage, I know. And so thank you very, very much. Thank you. Okay, wow. So I think that it's a perfect segue to the next root cause area number 5, which is intestinal dysbiosis, which almost everybody suffers from to one degree or another. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the last 2 root cause areas after that, and then we'll have our last testimonial. And then we'll wrap up the webinar. So intestinal dysbiosis. So there's this thing inside of our body called the intestinal microbiome. You're going to be hearing this term, this phrase more and more often. The microbiome is an ecosystem of organisms that lives in our body, that lives in our digestive system, our mouth, our throat, our stomach. And then we have 24 feet of small intestine. And then we have 5 to 6 feet of large intestine. If you were to, and most people just think of it as a kind of a continuous tube, like a garden hose, but it's not. It's actually a muscular, pouchy thing. And that's where the fecal matter can get trapped. But if you were to take that 30-foot long tube-like system and spread it out, it would cover an entire tennis court. So there's a tremendous amount of surface area inside of our own body, and living in that ecosystem is a number of individual bacterial organisms, single-celled organisms, on the order of 1,000 times 100 trillion. When we look at the human body, most scientists agree that what we normally think of as the human body is about 100 trillion cells. Again, bone cells, liver cells, kidney cells, blood cells, brain cells, nerve cells. And that's a lot. That's a big number. Living in that microbiome, living in that intestinal ecosystem, is a number of individual bacterial organisms 1,000 times 100 trillion, which means that if we were to define the human body only by the number of cells, 90% of what we are is in that intestinal microbiome. We're supposed to, out of all those thousands of trillions of bacterial organisms, 80% of it is supposed to be probiotic, of which scientists have discovered about 500 different kinds of probiotic organisms. Now, if you had 80% or more of the organisms in your microbiome being probiotics, you would have no gas, no bloating, no cramping, perfect bowel movements, no headaches, beautiful skin, good energy, sleeping like a baby, no joint pain. That's how important a healthy microbiome is. And every single one of those probiotic organisms eats your food, digests your food, and eliminates waste into your intestinal area. But the waste products of the healthy organisms, the waste products of the probiotics, are all health promoting. The waste products of the probiotics regulates the pH throughout your whole system. So no gas, no bloating. The waste products of the probiotics contain enzymes to help digest your food. The waste products of the probiotics include hormones that regulate peristalsis, which is the muscular contractions to move waste along. The waste products of the probiotics include all of our B vitamins, which are essential components of all of our immune system cells. And the waste products of the probiotics include the most powerful antibiotics ever discovered. So these are just some of the reasons why you want to have a healthy probiotic environment in your system. Now, imagine, however, and that's called intestinal symbiosis. When you have 80% or more of probiotics in your system, you have a very healthy system, and that's called intestinal symbiosis. But most people have a condition called intestinal dysbiosis. They have an overgrowth of the wrong kind of organisms. So they may have 80% pathological organisms, bacteria, viruses, yeast, mold, fungus, parasites, worms. I know it sounds gross, but that's what can happen. And all of those organisms have voracious appetites. And guess what their favorite food is? sugar, butter, flour, sugar combinations, cookies, cakes, pies. So if you have a ravenous craving for sweets, you absolutely have dysbiosis. So these pathological organisms eat your food, digest your food, and eliminate waste products. The waste products of the bad organisms, the waste products of the dysbiotic organisms are toxic to your system, and that's what causes the gas, the bloating, the cramping, the loose, urgent, frequent bowel movements, or the constipated bowel movements. The toxins produced by these bad organisms also cause inflammation in your intestines, which causes another condition called intestinal permeability or leaky gut syndrome. And if you have leaky gut syndrome, then all the toxins that are supposed to stay contained in your intestines leak out into your bloodstream. And that's what causes headaches. That's what causes skin problems. Remember Becky's photographs from earlier? All that horrific skin disorder was caused by leaky gut, which was caused by intestinal dysbiosis, joint pain, mood swings, chronic fatigue, insomnia, indigestion, and of course, all the digestive problems. Okay, so that's the picture of what's wrong. And how we solve this problem is, yes, by making complementary changes in all 7 root cause areas, but specifically there's a protocol using very specialized herbs, herbal products, so that we put into our system, which immediately neutralize the toxins, kill the bad organisms, and then safely, thoroughly, comprehensively escort everything out of your intestines. So everything that's in there that shouldn't be in there gets removed. Now, this process doesn't happen overnight. It can take 3 to 4 to 6 weeks to complete. And while we go through that process, we make sure that we're not feeding the bad organisms. We're only feeding the probiotic organisms, the healthy organisms. And at the end of that process, you have a new, healthy, complete, comprehensive microbiome. This is probably the most important thing that I do in my practice, and many, many, many other practitioners don't know how to do this. And so people go to practitioners and they try all kinds of supplements and they try all kinds of diets. But for many people, unless and until they have a comprehensive cleansing out of all that bad stuff and a thorough reconditioning of the microbiome, they will not get better. But if you go through this process and make changes, not just in root cause area number 5, which I've just described, but all the other areas, then there's absolutely no reason why you will not get better, as Kathy got better, and Ruben got better, and Becky got better. Okay, so I know I just looked at the clock, so I'm aware of the time. So I just want to go over the last 2 areas, and then I'm going to ask our friend Mark Porteous to share his testimonial. So root cause area number 6 is something called oxidative stress. I once heard a functional medical doctor in a big seminar in New York City say, 90% of all negative adult conditions are chronic and degenerative in nature, meaning that they're not caused by an infection. They're chronic and degenerative. They've lasted for a very long time. And then he said, 100% of all of those chronic degenerative conditions are caused by oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is caused by insulting habits. Another word for oxidative stress is inflammation. At the root of all inflammation is oxidative stress, and at the root of all oxidative stress are things called free radical molecules. These are very unstable molecules, which are constantly attacking the healthy cells of our body, like a gang on a busy street, stabbing people as they go through your body. So if that free radical activity, which is damaging cell structures, happens in your knee, then you're going to feel inflammation in your knee. You're going to feel pain in your knee. If that free radical activity is happening in your gut, if the pathological organisms are producing all these toxins, that's part of this free radical activity, then you're going to feel pain in your gut. And on and on and on, okay? So all of the complementary habits in this program, all of the complementary habits in the world of functional medicine, functional nutrition, have an anti-inflammatory effect. So being mindful of your habits, being properly hydrated, taking care of micronutrients, taking care of the balance of your macronutrients, addressing and resolving intestinal dysbiosis, addressing and resolving leaky gut syndrome, addressing and resolving any trapped fecal matter in your system. All of these things significantly, dramatically reduces oxidative stress in your body. So there's a long explanation about this in the book. I go into great detail in the video series, and of course, working one-on-one with you, I will make sure that you're not doing anything that's contributing to oxidative stress. Okay, the seventh and last root cause area that I'm aware of, I'm studying this stuff all the time, and so I don't think there are 8 or 9 root cause areas. Everything that is contributing to your health and everything that's contributing to your lack of health can be found in one or more of these 7 root cause areas. So root cause area number 7 is something called redox signaling. Now, redox signaling is fairly new science, but almost every major university has a redox signaling lab or a growing research center into the world of redox biology or redox biochemistry. So redox signaling molecules were first discovered in 1997, and the 3 scientists who made that discovery won the Nobel Prize for Medicine and Physiology in 1998. Since 1998, laboratories around the world have been trying to biosynthesize these molecules, which are made in the mitochondria of every healthy cell of your body. So every healthy cell of your body manufactures these redox signaling molecules, but as we age, and due to all the other causes of ill health, what's called the redox potential of your body and the redox potential of your cells can become diminished. And so if your cells are not producing an adequate quantity of redox signaling molecules and the right balance of these redox supplements, there are 2 types of, redox signaling molecules. There are 2 types of redox signaling molecules, reductants and oxidants. So now if you could picture the free radical molecules that are destabilizing the structures of your cells, one of the purposes of redox signaling, there are 2 types, reductants, which are operating at the level of electron transfer. That's where this free radical damage is occurring. So reductants are a type of redox molecule that donates electrons, thereby neutralizing the activity of the free radical. Or there's another group of redox signaling called oxidants, redox signaling molecules, and the oxidants take away electrons from that free radical, neutralizing the negative activity of the free radical molecule. So there are 2 types of redox signaling molecules. Another way of thinking of the redox signaling molecules is your cell phone. They're called signaling molecules because they are communication molecules. They are the very molecules inside the structures of your cells that the moment something goes wrong in your cell, the moment a toxin attacks your cell, the moment a free radical molecule attacks your cell from smoking cigarettes or drinking too much coffee or drinking too much, taking in too much sugar or taking chemicals into your body, the moment that cell gets damaged, it is a redox signaling molecule that says, oh, something is wrong. Something is happening that should not be happening. And it signals to the nucleus of the cell, the brain of every cell, where all the genetic programs are. And it says, this is happening. What do I do about it? And via other redox signaling molecules, a message is sent back to the cell for the precise formula to repair the damage. So when we say generally, every cell of our body is genetically programmed to heal itself, this is what we're talking about. Redox signaling science, redox signaling molecules, redox signaling supplements are absolutely essential to the normal functioning of every cell of our body. And about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, a laboratory in the United States, actually just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, a team of scientists figured out how to manufacture redox signaling molecules outside the body that were identical in every way to the redox signaling molecules manufactured inside the body. And so, as far as I know, there's only one lab in the whole world that's figured out how to do this. So for the very first time in history, we have a redox signaling bioreplenishment supplement. And what I can tell you, I'm in my 12th year of knowing about this and my 12th year of taking a redox signaling supplement every day and sharing it with other people. Similar to dysbiosis, if you have dysbiosis and you don't address it and resolve it, you will not get better. In a similar way, if you have serious redox signaling deficiency and imbalance in your body, and you don't address it and resolve it, you may not get better. That's how important redox signaling is. I actually attended a lecture last night about this subject, redox signaling, and the person who was speaking held forward a new book that was published just last year. It's called One Disease, and its subtitle is Redox Signaling Imbalance. So that's very interesting, and I'm going to order that book tomorrow and read it. So the purpose of my work, the purpose of my program is to look at each of these 7 root cause areas and then to help you walk through a process where we can transform the insulting habits and introduce the complementary habits in each of these 7 areas simultaneously. So it's not 50 changes that you need to make, but it's definitely 7 or 8 or 9 changes that you need to make. And as soon as you start making those changes, as you've heard in Ruben and Becky's story and in Kathy's story, and in a moment we're going to hear from Mark Porteous, as soon as you make these changes, your body responds. And your body moves itself, with your assistance, of course, from a process of dysfunction, from a process of degeneration, and from a condition of dis-ease into a process of reverse aging, into a process of cellular regeneration in every organ, every system, every cell of your body. And that is the process of restoration of normal activity. That is the process of the restoration of normal functioning. And as I said in the beginning, when normal functioning is restored, then you have no negative symptoms anywhere, not in your digestive system, not in your immune system, not in your kidneys, not in your liver, not in your brain, not in your nervous system. And so thank you very much for listening. And that concludes all the information I wanted to share about the 7 root cause areas. And now we're going to go to my dear friend, Mark Porteous, who I believe started his program in early January of 2022. So Brian, please go ahead and unmute.
He's a step ahead. He's got it.
There he is.
Hello,
And
hello.
Mark lives in Florida. Mark lives, I believe, in Sanford, Florida, which is somewhere near Orlando.
Correct. Yes, it is. Well, thank you,
so
Russell.
much. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for being here. It was so nice listening to the other testimonials. And I've heard some of these stories, but first I just want to share that my thanks for everyone who is sharing these testimonials. It takes a lot of courage to talk about our pain and suffering in this way, but we're sharing it to help other people. We feel grateful for Russell helping us, and we want other people to know about it so that he can help you as well. So thank you everyone for sharing the testimonials. I actually was introduced to Brian through a dear friend of mine, one of my best friends in the world, Mariani, when Brian, she had heard, was trying to help Russell to get this program out to more people. And I was excited to hear about it. I was really anxious to learn more about the 7 root causes, and then found an answer to my own problem. They were not aware when they were coming to work with me that I had just actually scheduled surgery. I had not yet had the surgery on December 30th of last year. I had full hip replacement surgery. And this took years to develop, but it was actually in 2012 that I left 11 years as a corporate sales rep for Time Warner Cable, where I was very, very active. And then I was left that so that I could live a life of purpose and passion as an entrepreneur, helping people to find their purpose and passion and to be able to make a lot of money doing it. And in the process, I became a very sedentary. I sat in a chair working with people 10 to 12 hours a day, and sacrificed diet and all kinds of other things. But what I found was that when I left my job in 2012, I weighed 230 pounds, and I gained 8 pounds every single year for 10 years. For 10 years, every single year, 8 more pounds. And I remember being 230. And then when I went to a water park and I got on the scale, and it wouldn't let me go down the slide because it was 251. I couldn't be over 250. And so I felt awful at 250, and it kept getting worse. And it wasn't until 2017 where I started I was getting swollen ankles and my knees were starting to hurt, but I was running to try to lose weight, and I started clicking in my hip. And I thought I just pulled a groin, but it over the years got worse and worse until finally in 2017, I went to see a doctor, and he said, yeah, you've got arthritis. And I was worried it was much worse than that, actually. A friend of mine had just been diagnosed with bone cancer, and I was seriously thinking, oh my God, what could cause this kind of pain? And anyway, my doctor said, oh yeah, you could just get cortisone shots. That'll take care of the pain until you're ready for surgery. And that was the only path, that eventually I was going to need surgery. It was just a matter of time. He even said his wife had just had hip surgery and was doing great. And so I did not want to have surgery. I tried all kinds of other alternatives, helping with things like I knew about with inflammation and all different things that I thought I was trying to do. But finally, I couldn't take it anymore. In 2021, my twins, I have twin boy and girl, we took them to Universal Studios for Harry Potter. It's the year they get invited into Hogwarts School of Magic. And so we were so excited to spend the day there. By the end of a full day at Universal Studios, we went back to the room, and the kids were in one room. I had to go hide in another room because I was in such pain. And I didn't want them to know how bad I hurt. And my wife heard me, came in, and she had no idea. She didn't realize. And she was dragging me through the park and just like was really frustrated with how slow I would limp along. I'd had a limp for years, but she didn't know how much I was hiding the pain. And I finally said, I need to go to surgery. I can't have a life like this. I can't play with my kids. And so we decided to do the surgery. And I remember Brian just being like, I wish we could save you from this. I wish you didn't have to go through this. But what happened was really, really important. I'm glad that I went through it right away. You know, within a day, I was walking. But by the end of the surgery, I had gone from, in 10 years, from 230 pounds to 315 pounds 1 year ago. January 1st of 2022, I was 315 pounds, and all of my bones hurt. So within, I couldn't start the program. I didn't start the program until January 6th, after my kids had gone back to school, and I had all of everything prepped and ready, everything ordered to do my cleanse. One of the biggest things was the water. What I found was I was drinking 2 liters of water, which is more than most people drink. 2 liters of water a day, I thought was plenty. This is what I need for my 250 pounds of weight, is a gallon of water every day. So I bought myself a gallon of water, and I just keep filling this up all day long. But within 7 days, I would get out of bed. And normally every day when I put my feet down, my feet would hurt. My joints and my toes would hurt, my ankles. And I was just like, it's just getting worse and worse. I'm 52 years old, and I can't believe like it's just downhill from here. So within 7 days, my feet weren't hurting anymore. My back wasn't hurting anymore. Within, I think it was in April, within 3 months, I had lost 25 pounds. And more than anything else was just feeling vibrant, energized, and I wasn't in pain. And that was the biggest thing. It was the longest I had been without being in pain in at least 5 years. But I just was so relieved, because the biggest part was that my doctor, when he did the surgery, said, oh, and by the way, we have the pictures, the x-rays of your other hip. It's only a matter of time because you have it in the other hip too. And I knew he was right, because I was feeling the same clicks that I had felt back in 2015 when I first started to notice it. And it was like, oh my God, I've got 5 years and I'm going to have the other hip replaced. And so I was determined to not need another surgery for arthritis. And so it's been 1 year. And not only have I lost 40 pounds, right now I'm at 270 this morning. I've got another 25 to 30 pounds to go. But again, it's not about the weight for me. It really is about the energy and being pain-free and being able to play with my kids for hours at a time, bike riding, running, all of the different stuff. So I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful to be able to be here tonight and to share my story with you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for your discipline, self-discipline, in going through the program and maintaining all those complementary habits for all this time. I'm sure Renee is grateful, and your children are grateful as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to turn over the session now to Brian Mariani, and I think he has some things to share. And at the end of that, we will open it up for Q&A. But go ahead, Brian. I know you have some things to share with everybody.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here. This has been really very special to witness, to hear the authentic sharing from Ruben and Becky and Kathy and Mark. You know, Mark, you said it so well. It takes a lot of courage to share a story like that. And it's really through your sharing that we all got some insights to maybe have some hope for ourselves. Everyone is struggling, and so many people don't feel that they have an opportunity to express what's really going on for them. And if anything gets accomplished tonight, it's that you have a very real knowing that this is a place where you can be who you really are, where you can be safe to share what's really going on, because Russell can help, and this whole community has your back. And so thank you to all of you who shared tonight. I hope that was helpful for everyone. I have put into the chat a link. You'll see it. It's the gutrules.com. I'm actually going to share my screen really quick just to walk everyone through this. If you feel that something here tonight made sense to you and you're in the mode of taking action, I encourage you to click on this link, save it. We really want you to not only get value from what you've heard tonight, what you've experienced, but you may very likely have something that you're looking to resolve. And so we invite you to take action, whether it's buying Russell's book, or is it jumping into the video series? We're actually running a very special promotion for the video series. As you can see, it's being offered to all of you for $297. It is normally $997. We want to create the easiest access point for you to move towards a solution that's aligned for you and your life. And so I encourage you to click on that link again, save it, take a look. There's a lot of information on that page that really explains what those opportunities are. And again, it may be the book. It may be, hey, I want to put something in my hands, or I want the ebook on my computer or my phone. I want something to carry with me day to day.
The audio book.
Yeah, I want to jump into the video course. I want a real self-study guide. One of the brilliant things that we've added to the video course is that Russell will actually be with you live twice a month. And so it's not just a self-study. You'll have Russell with you every step of the way. You have the support of our whole team every step of the way. For those of you who, as Kathy shared, for her, there really wasn't any other option other than working with Russell directly. She knew enough about herself that she wanted to work with Russell directly. And as you can see and hear, that was the best decision for her. And so if you're looking at everything and saying, well, I really want to move towards potentially working with Russell, I would very, very much encourage you to go to our website. I'm actually going to put the link in the chat here. We offer a totally complimentary, we call it a first step conversation with Russell. I just put the link in the chat. Go there and book in some time directly with Russell. Ask some personal questions. Get to know him better. And more than anything, we hope that we've accomplished our 3 commitments for you. We hope that, number 1, you've moved into a better state, a better place. Number 2, we hope that you have actually received value this evening or whenever you're viewing this. And we hope that you felt our sincere kindness, that we truly are in service to you. And so lastly, we do want to open this up for any Q&A that might be out there. So if anyone has a question, please just send it to me directly. And I will open it up. I will ask the questions to Russell. And Russell, do you have anything that you wanted to share before we do any Q&A?
No, I again would like to thank everybody for being here, and particularly thank Mark and Kathy and Ruben and Becky for sharing their testimonials live, as Kathy said, live on TV. And again, thank our team. We have an amazing team behind the scenes making all this possible. So you have to, if you have a question, please put it into the chat directly to Brian, and then he'll ask the question and I will do my best to answer the question. And we will, so if you have to go, thank you so much for coming. We understand it's late. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, and we've been together for an hour and a half, and really appreciate the the gift of your time and your attention. So if you need to go, we understand and thank you. And if you have a question, we will be happy to address it, and we'll be here until all the questions are answered, or until 10 o'clock arrives. And at 10 o'clock, we definitely will call the night, but we may not need all that time, depending on the question. So go ahead, Brian. Let's see if any questions have come in.
So this is actually awesome. There's a ton of questions coming in, and thank you so much. These are all awesome. And the good news is they actually all kind of funnel to one question that I'm going to ask you, Russell. And I think it'll be a perfect way to really wrap up this extraordinary evening together. So the general question with everything that keeps streaming in is, what is the best next step? We've heard what you shared tonight. We're wondering what we should do. What's the best next step?
Okay, great. Yeah, that is a great question. And I think probably for most people, the best next step is what Brian was just describing. We call it a first step conversation. It's free. It's a 30-minute conversation with me, the purpose of which is for me to listen to you, listen to your situation, listen to your symptoms, listen to your condition, and let you know whether or not I can help you. Now, most of the time I can. In fact, I can't remember being in a conversation where I concluded, oh, I can't help this person, because everything I've been talking about is the body heals itself. We just have to learn how to cooperate. And so that's really what this process is all about. So that might be the best next step for a lot of people. For some people, the best next step could be just to buy the book or get the ebook. I think we're sending the ebook out, which is the complete book, 320 pages of Principle Eating, the No Diet Way to Complete Health, to everyone who attended the webinar. Okay, so that might be the best next step. And then as you're reading, if you have questions, then you could maybe sign up for the free 30-minute first step conversation. Or while you're reading the book, you might decide, you know what, I'm going to do that video series, which we call the Course in Functional Nutrition. It's a series of 8 lessons, 3.5 hours long. You know, each section is 35, 40 minutes. There's a Q&A at the end of each video. I show you how to take the supplements. I show you how to do the water cure. We have recipes in the kitchen with Megan showing you how to make the recipes. And I show you how to do the colon cleanse. I take the herbs myself. I show you how to mix it, and I walk you through that process. And as Brian said, twice a month, we have a Zoom session like this one, where the only purpose is for people who are going through the video course to ask their questions and get their questions answered. So that might be the best next step for you. And again, as Brian pointed out, and as Kathy pointed out, for her, she did that first step conversation. And after thinking about it, she decided that she wanted to explore working with me one-on-one. And like Mark and Becky and Ruben, they went through what we call the initial consultation process. And at the conclusion of that session, she thought about it for a day or two and decided to work with me one-on-one. So that's also an option for everyone. It does require an application process. And for everyone, that application process starts with the first step conversation. So I think that answers the question.
It definitely does. And again, Russell, thank you for taking this on. I can only imagine what it's like for you to sit there and be celebrating 50 years after hearing that news, and 43 years of helping people professionally. And I hope that everyone really got that you're not alone tonight. we all struggle. Russell had to nearly get a death sentence to figure out his path in life, but look what happened as a result. Here we are on January 25th, and whenever you're listening to this after that, we're here today. And as a result of that pain and suffering 50 years ago, you all now have an opportunity to find community, to find a safe place, to be a part of a community that's adding value, to learn, to grow, and ultimately thrive together. And I think that's a common purpose that we can all align with. So thank you, Russell, for being the teacher that you are, the leader that you are, and being able to create the language and the invitation for so many to find and have hope and ultimately live a great and healthy and optimal life. So thank you everyone for joining. I am going to put the view into gallery. Just give us a wave, do a heart symbol, give us a smile. We love you, we thank you, and we look forward to serving you. Thank you everyone, and have a wonderful night.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Really appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much.